In an era of turbulence, where the world seems to spin amidst political instability, economic crises, and rampant misinformation, a peculiar phenomenon occurs. Some individuals remain steadfast. They are not swept away by fear, nor do they react in panic. Instead, they embody tranquility, insight, and centeredness. What sets them apart? The answer lies not in external circumstances but in the vibrational frequency within them. This is the first principle, the law of resonance. According to this law, every thought and emotion we harbor emits a form of energy, a vibrational frequency. Much like sound waves, light waves, or radio waves, similar frequencies attract one another. If your mind is inundated with anxiety, scarcity, and fear, you will draw situations, people, and outcomes that mirror those vibrations. Conversely, if you maintain peace, gratitude, and a sense of abundance, life begins to feel gentler. Opportunities unfold more readily, and positive individuals gravitate toward you. I once lived in fear. When I embarked on my entrepreneurial journey, I was haunted by the prospect of failure, the fear of financial ruin, the dread of disappointing my parents, and the anxiety of being ridiculed. Each day, I lay awake, conjuring countless negative scenarios in my mind. And as expected, I lost clients, my work stagnated, and my emotions plummeted. It wasn't due to a lack of ability but because I inadvertently emitted a frequency of lack. And the universe simply mirrored that back to me. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a quote from The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Man's status in the natural world is determined therefore by the quality of his thoughts. That I began to comprehend. The external reality is always a consequence of the inner world. When I paused and commenced meditation, shifting my focus from what I lacked to what I possessed, health, freedom, time, aspirations, the energy within me transformed. Opportunities emerged from unexpected directions. Positive individuals began to connect with me. I realized that I was the broadcasting station of my own life. The law of resonance also elucidates a more subtle phenomenon: pendulums, thought pendulums. These are societal energy groups formed from collective beliefs, like social media trends, societal norms, or herd mentality. They constantly attempt to pull you into their sway, making you think like them, act like them, fear like them. You scroll through social media and see someone buying a luxury car. You desire one too. You hear someone say, "This year is tough for business." You start believing success is elusive. Pendulums aren't inherently negative. They're thought entities that siphon your energy if you're not vigilant. To break free, you need to awaken and question: do I genuinely desire this? Or am I being influenced by others? When you step back, observe, and filter your thoughts, you gradually escape negative pendulums and enter the flow of positive resonance. You can't entirely avoid all pendulums, but you can choose the ones worthy of your energy. For instance, if you follow a channel that enhances your awareness, trains your mind, and inspires you, that's a positive pendulum that elevates your frequency. Ultimately, the law of resonance imparts a simple yet profound message. To see the world change, first change the frequency within yourself. You can't wait for the world to offer you safety to feel secure. You must emit safety for the world to respond accordingly. Throughout the journey of growth and awakening, One of the most challenging lessons I've had to learn, and continue to learn daily, is the lesson of balance. Life perpetually oscillates between extremes, success and failure, joy and sorrow, abundance and scarcity. But what tormented me wasn't the circumstances, it was my attachment to one extreme and fear of the other. The law of balance, as Manly P. Hall once wrote, is the law of nature and also the soul's greatest challenge. We are here to seek balance in an unbalanced world, to find stillness amidst chaos, to unveil illusion, and to confront the darkness within ourselves. For me, this was most evident when I ventured into my first business. I once regarded success as everything, not merely for financial freedom but as a means to prove my worth, to my parents, to society, and to the rejected child within me. I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, consumed by anxiety and calculations. Every dip in numbers, every client rejection, plunged me into turmoil. I had placed my career on a pedestal, deifying it, and consequently, I became its slave. When you assign excessive importance to something, you inadvertently create excess potential in the natural energy field. This distorts the universe's natural flow. Just like an overly taut bowstring may snap instead of shooting the arrow farther. Similarly, when you deem a relationship as life or death, you become dependent, anxious, controlling, and these very behaviors lead to its demise. When you fear losing money excessively, you make poor investment choices or freeze in action. When you desperately crave success, you unknowingly push it away. The law of balance operates as an underlying force of the universe. Whenever you lean too far, life generates a counterforce to bring you back to center. That's why many people experience a series of misfortunes, because an internal imbalance has formed. They fear, they worry, they exaggerate something excessively. The universe isn't punishing you, it's merely recalibrating you. I recall a time when, after several months of significant business growth, I began to feel invincible. I believed I knew it all, no longer needed to learn, nor listen to anyone. Then, like a slap from the universe, revenue plummeted, clients departed, and I slipped into mild depression. It was then I understood. Arrogance is also a form of imbalance. And life always has a way of teaching humility. One tool that helped me escape the state of imbalance was the exercise of confronting the worst-case scenario. I began asking myself, what if I lose everything? What if the business collapses? What if all my efforts crumble? Strangely, when I accepted the worst possibility, fear dissipated. With nothing left to lose, I felt free, and that very surrender became the starting point for rebirth. The law of balance also taught me that everything has its flip side, nothing is perfect or permanent. Today's joy might be the root of tomorrow's sorrow, and vice versa. When I ceased labeling every experience good, bad, should, shouldn't, I began to see life as a river, ever flowing, ever changing, yet inherently tranquil. From then on, I lived differently. I still had goals, worked diligently, loved deeply, but I no longer placed anything above all else. I learned to love without possession, work without attachment to results, and live without fear of loss. Balance, it turns out, isn't about stillness. It's a mindful flexibility, knowing when to advance, when to retreat, when to say yes, when to say no, when to hold on, when to let go. And if your life feels unsteady, it might not be because you're wrong, but because you're off kilter. Ask yourself, am I assigning too much meaning to something? Am I placing something on a pedestal instead of keeping it in its rightful place? Because once you restore internal equilibrium, the external world will begin to reflect that. You don't need to control everything. What you need is to master yourself. And inner balance is the most potent power you can cultivate on the journey to mastering reality. In a world where people constantly chase roles assigned by society, successful entrepreneur, dutiful child, perfect friend, exemplary citizen, few pause to ask a simple yet powerful question. Who am I when all roles are stripped away? We're accustomed to defining ourselves through labels, name, profession, assets, appearance, social status. But all these are merely the visible tip of an iceberg, the ego shaped by environment, family, and media. When you overly identify with this surface, you're swept along life's currents like a rudderless boat. The law of awareness, as Manly P. Hall emphasized, is a reminder that you're not the role. You're the observer of the play. He once wrote, "To live in the world without becoming aware of the meaning of the world is like wandering about in a great library without touching the books." Awakening isn't a flashy, instant enlightenment moment. It's a return to your primordial center of consciousness, where you're no longer dominated by thoughts, emotions, biases, and automatic reactions. It's when you become the witness, non-judgmental, unattached, simply observing. I recall one morning, after days of work-related stress, I stepped onto the balcony and silently watched the sunrise. In that moment, no goals, no deadlines, no identity. I was merely a presence. Not, I am watching the sunrise, but, the sunrise is unfolding. And I am witnessing. A wave of tranquility washed over me. I realized, behind all life's movements, there's an unchanging awareness observing. And I am that awareness. From that moment, I began practicing what spiritual traditions call returning to center, becoming the observer, not the one being swept away. When I felt anger, instead of yelling or suppressing, I simply acknowledged, anger is arising. When I felt anxious, I said, anxiety is present, but it isn't me. And miraculously, just by observing, without attachment, without resistance, those emotions gradually dissipated, like fog melting under the sun. Awareness is the only thing you truly possess. The body may weaken, memory may fade, emotions ebb and flow like tides, but consciousness remains, like the vast sky behind the clouds. When you remember you're the sky, you're no longer governed by the clouds. Another profound principle within the law of awareness is, what you focus on, you become. When you focus on problems, you identify with them. When you focus on pain, you're confined within suffering. But when you focus on observation, neutral and mindful, you open up inner freedom. In that space, you're not limited by the past or anxious about the future. You return to the pure, I am, where creativity, peace, and freedom flourish. Ancient Indians had a profound meditation mantra. I am not this body, not these emotions, not these thoughts. I am the awareness observing all. Simply repeating this daily, you'll gradually peel away the thick layers of ego accumulated since childhood. And as you shed each layer, you don't lose yourself, you return to yourself. The law of awareness doesn't promise instant wealth or superficial fame. But it offers you the ultimate key to freedom. No one can control you if you're no longer controlled by yourself. No circumstance can imprison,